Hey guys, welcome back to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave. Today I'm going to show you how to take a potato and do the twice baked. Baked potatoes are great, wonderful. We're going to actually go through that step. I'll show you how to do it. But then once it's baked, I'm going to take the insides out, make kind of a stuffing out of the mashed potatoes or so, put it back in the oven. It's really a great dish. Pretty simple to do. Let's get to it. Okay guys, so here I've got my potato. I've washed it off, because the skin, a lot of people eat the skin on these twice bakes, so you do want to make sure it's good and clean. It's got all the dirt and grit off of there. And then I've got a fork. All I'm going to do is kind of puncture the skin in a few places on, call it 4 sides of the potato. And what this does, it lets some of the steam release, and it'll prevent any kind of breakage of the skin or pop through as it cooks. Potatoes take a long time to cook. So I've got the oven preheated. I'm going to pop this in at 370 or so, 375 degrees. They probably take an hour or so. Sometimes they go a little faster, sometimes they go a little slower. It can depend on the oven. The way we're going to tell is really just by feel. If you feel it and it's kind of squishy on the inside, then it's done. Let's go ahead, we'll bake it off, and then we'll come back after it cools a little bit. Okay, I've got the potato now out of the oven. It probably took an hour to an hour and 15 minutes or so to get it cooked. The way I can tell, you give it a squeeze and there's a fair amount of give. That means it's fully cooked. Now I'm going to let this cool because it's extremely hot and they're a little bit easier to work with to do the stuffing if they're a little bit cooled off. So I would say let it sit for probably 10 or 15 minutes, relax, calm down a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and make our filling for the twice baked. So my potato is now cooled off, and it's still quite warm, but it's gotten to the point where I can handle it barehanded. Not for too long, but I can. Now I'm going to slice this potato in half. You can do it a couple ways. It's flatter than it is horizontal here. You can slice it kind of this way and you get 2 relatively flat halves, or you can slice it this way with the slice here and you'd get 2 narrow halves. I find it a lot easier to work with the flatter halves, so that's the direction I'm going to slice, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut all the way through and expose that the flesh inside. It's still, like I said, pretty warm, so I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a little makeshift pot holder. And then I'm going to hold it in one hand and use a spoon to essentially carve out the potato on the inside and leave about a 1/4 inch of potato touching the skin. It certainly doesn't have to be exact. You're just trying to make that kind of shell or the casing that we're going to stuff back in and make room for that stuffing. You don't really want to go all the way down to the skin, or the shell just kind of becomes a little too flimsy and soft on you. Leaving some of that potato in there will help it maintain some rigidity, so that you can stuff it, you can continue to handle it. Let me show you on the other side. And I'm just putting the potato into a little side bowl. We'll go ahead and do the same thing over here. And you're just kind of carving it out. And the potato should come out very easily. If it's not coming out easily, it means it's undercooked, and I would throw it back in the oven for a little bit longer until it is nice and soft. We're going to go ahead, and I think we've got this guy pretty well done. So now we're left with our 2 shells and our bowl of potato here. With this is what's going to become our filling, and I've got a few ingredients to add to it. We're almost making like a mashed potato here. I've got a pat of butter. I'm going to break up and throw in there. I've got some sour cream. Put that in there as well. I've got some chives, and I've got some cheddar cheese. Now, you don't have to use cheddar, you don't have to use chives. You can use kind of whatever you want. Blue cheese would be awesome in here, or frankly almost any other type of cheese. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. A little more pepper. And then I'm just going to mix this up. And again, if the potatoes are cooked, it should all come together fairly easily, that butter. There's still enough warmth in the potatoes to melt the butter. I'm going to go ahead and add maybe just a touch more of my sour cream. And this is our filling. You want to go ahead, you want to give it a little bit of a taste. That's good. It should have a fairly strong flavor, because remember, we're going to stuff it back in here, and the flavor from this is going to carry over into this potato. So once we've got that mixed, we're really just going to refill the boat, so to speak, with the filling. Divide it evenly between the two potatoes. Depending on how much you add to this, whether it be cheese or vegetable, actually this would be a great way to hide vegetables from your kids. You can end up with more stuffing than you really expect. This looks like it's going to be a pretty good amount. Then you can go ahead, pop these back into the oven just as is, or you can also even take a little bit of that extra cheese if you've got it and sprinkle a little bit more right on top. Pop this back in the oven for about 15 minutes or so until the top starts getting nice and browned at 375 to 400 degrees, and then we're good to go. Alright guys, so after putting these back in the oven for about half an hour or so, that top started getting nice and crispy. Twice bakes. They're absolutely delicious. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.